All right, take a look at that. You don't see that every day, folks. The closing bell in New York Stock Exchange. There it is. Boom, 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 boom. Manchester United. The soccer team, or as those lunatics in Europe call it football, but we know what real football is. Football's football. That little round ball they kick around, that's soccer. Soccer team ringing the New York Stock Exchange bell. For the markets, again, a strong day, up 200 and change, 208 in the Dow. NASDAQ up 50, strong, 25 points higher S&P. Gold dipped a little bit here, $3,340 to the ounce. Oil, good news, 88 cents lower, $65 a barrel. Again, $65 barrel of oil should be around a $3 gallon of gasoline. So if you're paying more than $3, depending on taxes and what your state is, but generally around $60, $65 is a $3 gallon of gasoline. If you're above that, you should be expecting it to come down, or you should walk right into the gas station and say, hey, I know what you're doing here. You're gouging us. Bring those prices down. Crypto backed off a little bit over the last 24 hours, jumped back right at the last part of the trading day up to about 117,000 or so right there, 116,700. Had dipped into the 115 area for a bit. Again, very, very muted trading on Wall Street. And again, a lot of positivity about Trump's trade deals. Earnings have been very, very good. Earnings season's kicked off last week, and to this week, they've been very, very, very good, folks. Hey, did you hear the news? The View is taking the rest of the summer off.
And before we go on hiatus, we only have one more show after this. I'm allowed to say that, right?
Too late now.
So here we said we're going on hiatus. All right. I know. Don't kill me. I know they take the summers off, but is this year different? Will they even come back after that hiatus? I mean, ask Stephen Colbert about the Trump effect. Here's what I want to do right here, right now. I want you folks watching right now to call that toll-free number, toll-free, leave a message, and let the ladies of the View know what you think about their show. Should they stay? Should they come back? We're going to try and turn some of those around and play your voicemails later in this show today. All right, the next guest, the former chief of U.S. Border Patrol and was Customs and Border Protection's acting deputy commissioner and was nominated by President Trump in 2018 to be the ICE director. He's the only person to have led both ICE and CBP for Homeland Security. Happy to have Ron Vitiello join me again. Mr. Vitiello, thank you for joining us again. Could you just weigh in on this? It really, really is important. The ambush of the CBP officers in New York by two or more, maybe, but at least two illegals with extensive criminal records. I mean, how many more times do we have to see this happen? This is on the Biden administration, yes or no, sir?
100%. No, this is what happens when the border is out of control for the entire time of the Biden administration. People with known gang ties, known criminal records come to the United States. They were released at the border because the systems were overwhelmed. And frankly, the Biden administration was encouraging this activity. Released at the border and then commit mayhem all over the United States, in New York and in Massachusetts. State charges, arrested on state charges, bailed out or skipped out on charges in Massachusetts and New York, and then go on to commit crimes. And in this case, unfortunately, attacked one of our Customs and Border Protection supervisors out of the New York area. And lucky for him, he was prepared in his training, and he had his weapon with him and was able to defend himself and his friend. And we're prayerful that he's going to have a full and complete recovery. Right now, he's in pretty good shape. Still some things to do for him at the hospital, but we are grateful that he could save himself and hopeful that he returns to full duty soon. Help us figure this out. So New York City, New York and state and New York City are both sanctuary, or were both sanctuary municipalities, let's call them that. Eric Adams, for the entirety of his mayoral tenure, was all for being a sanctuary city in New York City. Suddenly, towards the end, when he got investigated, he was under some trouble. He wanted to get the favor, I believe, of Trump, et cetera. And he pushed back on some of the sanctuary city policies that he lived under for many, many years. Where does New York stand right now as a city? And you can expand it out to the state, especially given Mamdani is right now the current leader to be the next mayor there. Well, the city either refuses and or encourages, right, this sanctuary status. So when people are arrested and do crimes in New York, they're taken off the street, they're put in jail, and if they're bailed out or if they finish their sentences or charges are dropped, in places that are not sanctuaries, that's a phone call to ICE after a detainer is placed. ICE officers go and pick that person up in the jail setting. It's a very safe transfer of custody, and that person is put on a path for removal. In New York, statewide, and in the city, they refuse to do that. They won't call ICE. They won't cooperate because the city prefers it that way. The wokesters in the political class that help run the city, including the mayor. I think the mayor realized that this was a problem, that they were going to have trouble combating crime and reducing crime in the city. And then when the state of Texas and the Biden administration were allowing thousands of people to come into the border every night, and Texas was shipping illegal aliens that had been released from the federal government all over the country, and New York included, I think the mayor started to change his mind. These are destructive policies. The crime that these two individuals committed against our officer is completely preventable. Those people don't need to be in the United States. And it wasn't just that they were here illegally. They were committing crimes all over the East Coast and being released from state and local custody to go on to commit more crime. What law enforcement professionals know, and the cops on the street have nothing to do with this. This is about the leadership in the political class. The cops on the street know, and even these political operatives know, that the people who commit crimes are likely to commit more crimes. Recidivism, even after people are convicted, is very, very high. Why are we in New York or places like Los Angeles, including, all these Massachusetts, the sanctuary cities, why are we encouraging this recidivism? Those states and municipalities are taking people off the street because they commit crimes against their own citizens, and then they release them again when they have the chance to put them on a path for removal. It's destructive, it's bad for public safety, and it flouts the rule of law, the federal law that allows the federal government to control our borders, our sovereignty, and immigration law in the U.S.
Let's take a look at Attorney General Pam Bondi. She put out a statement and says, I'm quoting, New York City has released thousands of criminals on the streets to commit violent crimes against law-abiding citizens due to sanctuary city policies. If New York City won't stand up for the safety of its citizens, we will, meaning the feds. Now, here's my question, sir. I've been doing this a really, really, really long time. How much, let's put it this way, how much teeth, how much bite do the feds have when a city wants to be a sanctuary city and says, we're not going to let you do what you want to do on the federal level?
Unfortunately, there's a checks and balances here, right? The compliance by the state is now having to be forced. And so the Attorney General has filed this lawsuit. We're hopeful that we will prevail. I think eventually in federal court up to the Supremes, it will, we will win a case like this or others like it. But we're in this situation. We're going to have to depend on the district court in New York to hear this case first. And so it's going to have to work through the process. So is the balance or the power there by the federal government? Yes, it is. The laws are definitely on the side of federal and U.S. sovereignty, but it's going to have to move through the judicial system. And we've seen these activist judges, more activists than judges, make terrible rulings as it relates to public safety, and especially around these cases of immigration. They're not following the law, and the Supreme Court is eventually ruling in the federal government's favor and the Trump administration. But this is what we're having to deal with to force New York to do what we think is the right thing, what is in the interest of the state and the people who live there.
And, unfortunately, it's just not New York alone. You look at so many, look at Los Angeles, look at the state of California, Illinois, some of the other states that are saying they want to be sanctuary states, they want to have sanctuary municipalities within them, and it kind of handcuffs the feds. And I'll give you a perfect example. Marijuana is still illegal on the federal level in the United States. It's legal in some 35 states individually. So the feds can't really enforce marijuana laws. I mean, I guess they could if they wanted, but they just can't, and they don't. And the concern is that these sanctuary, pro-sanctuary folks who are winning these elections, Mamdani in New York, Newsom in California, will continue to defy federal law.
That, unfortunately, is where we are. Despite the leadership shown by the president, Secretary Noem, we've really essentially locked down the border. It's slower on the border than it's ever been. It's been in my entire career. And so it's really important. If you can get people out of the country that are here illegally, it is going to be really hard for them to come back. If you cross the border right now, you're likely to be apprehended. You will most likely be prosecuted, and you will be put on a path for removal very quickly. And so controlling immigration in the United States is a benefit for the state and the city. But unfortunately, we're at the hands of these judges. And this is going to be a slower process than anybody would like to see it. But I think we're going to start to come, we're going to see cities and states coming around. There's a couple of jurisdictions out there that have raised their hand when the secretary offered for them to engage with ICE and make sure that we can hand people over who are either convicted or arrested and that are also in the country illegally. So I think Louisville, and there's a couple of places in California that are raising their hand as well. And so I think that tide is moving. Hopefully it happens faster than what we're seeing so far.
You would be very helpful, just having this discussion, because I've been doing this for the better part of 15 years. It would be really helpful if we could get the FBI to release crime statistics violent crime statistics committed by illegals. They just, for some reason, they won't break it out that way, and you have to backtrack through different municipalities to prove to the left that violent crimes are being committed at a higher rate amongst those folks that are coming over here illegally. They don't assimilate with our rules, laws in our society, and they commit violent crimes at a higher rate. But the left will tell you we're being bigoted, or we're being racist, or we're lying.
Yeah, crime doesn't have a race. If you're a victim, you don't care where that person came from. But it is against the common sense or common thinking that somebody that's in the country illegally that commits a crime in that jurisdiction, there's no that's a preventable crime. If that person wasn't here, then those crimes don't occur. There are no victims in that case. And so, yeah, you're right. And I think it's probably purposeful that the apparatus doesn't allow us to know the number of people who are arrested in the United States that are also in the country illegally or out of status. And there's a history to that goes back to the Obama days. And they've tried to muddy the waters to make it look like this isn't a problem. But we know that it is. If you look at DOJ.gov on the Bureau of Prisons page, the number of people who are in federal incarceration that are born in another country is very high. It's a significant number. And if you think that through, that means if those people were removed before they committed those crimes or right after they committed their first crimes, we would all be safer.
Right. Exactly right. And the alternative is right here, Alcatraz, which I believe is doing gangbusters. We're going to say thank you very much to Ron Vidiello, Customs and Border Patrol Senior Advisor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Remind you about my podcast and my YouTube page, which are both updated daily. Just hit subscribe right across the bottom. We'll be back. 2.5 minutes. For some comments about the view at the top of the show. I mean, you guys I love you guys. It's hundreds of them coming in. Keep them coming, man. We're going to get a few of these at the end of the show, assuming I can get these guys to turn it around in time. But wow, you are engaged. You don't really like the view too much, do you? Remember several years back when they shoveled Hillary Clinton into an SUV like she was a slab of ribeye going into the oven? I sure do. The year is 2016. Watch this. Just watch this for a second. This is just amazing. So, it was a 9/11 ceremony at Ground Zero. Mainstream media quickly went to work for their bosses. Watch her. She can barely stand. They need almost three people to hold her up. It was hot, they said. They said she was hot out there, but the video is video, and eyes are eyes. Hillary was being held up by 3 people who could barely hold her up. She staggered a few times before they squeezed her, pushed her into that vehicle, and stuffed her like an animal into a casing. She said she was overheated and wasn't feeling great. Later, they would call it pneumonia. Interesting. Well, Joe Biden had a cold at the debate. Remember that? Seems to be a lot of that going around in Democrat circles. Little things can become big things in presidential elections, as we all know. The Clintons know that fact all too well. So they lied. And then they had to come up with something called pneumonia. Voters got fresh proof that Hillary Clinton's first instinct is to lie right then and there, and then lie again, and then lie again to cover up their original lie and lie. I guess there was more to Hillary's condition than we ever had imagined. I guess the media conveniently forgot that she had a history of fainting and falling, including in 2009 when she broke her elbow, and in 2012 when she sustained a concussion, maybe worse. But they bought mainstream media, the bought and paid for mainstream media, I should say, didn't dig because, as always, they believe they, the media should pick the president and not the American people. So they withheld information. They didn't dig or never, ever, ever tried to dig for any information about it. Right, Jake Tapper? But maybe, just maybe, years of corruption did a number on Hill Shady's health, both mentally and physically. And maybe we never really understood just how much until now. And maybe, just maybe, it smells a lot like another conspiracy theory that is no longer either conspiracy or a theory. Turns out that the Democrat Party thinks they're very good at hiding the degradation of their presidents and their party leaders. Spoiler alert, they're not. So Hillary Clinton is emotionally and mentally unstable, needs pills to regulate her moods. Really did not see that coming.
This is painful, and it will be for a long time.
High-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems.
I'm not, I have no idea.
Uncontrolled fits of anger.
Mary and Joseph.
Aggression.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
And cheerfulness.
Vice presidential. Did you talk about vice presidential possibilities with Senator Warren?
You guys have got to try the cold chai.
And that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
I've been talking so.
It's called a supercut when you put a bunch of these things, you stream them together. I just find it hilarious. I'm sorry. I think it's hysterical that they were saying, oh, she's fine. She's fine. She was anything but fine. But, yep, she's been talking too much, guys. And when Hillary Clinton says talking, what she really means is lying about Russia collusion, when in fact, turns out that Russia had plenty of dirt on who? Not Trump. Oh, on Hillary.
In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency.
And then there were the Russians, Russian WikiLeaks, Russia,
The Russian interference, and Russians, Putin, the Russians.
Honestly, she should be locked up.
Can you imagine what it's like being married to Hillary, by the way? Psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness. Heavy tranquilizers, and that's just the Tuesday. I got a lot of questions now that we know that Hillary was a little cuckoo and needed to be on cuckoo meds to deal with all her cuckoo. So she did wipe those email servers clean in a fit of rage, I guess. Did she? I don't know. Did she have her presidential campaign spy on Trump's presidential campaign during a psycho-emotional episode? I don't know. Did she leave Americans to die in Benghazi during an uncontrolled fit of anger?
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
It made a lot of difference. A lot of difference to families here in America. Here's what I know for sure. When a Democrat speaks, it's a lie. And when a Clinton speaks, even more so. Hillary was heavily tranquilized. That should come as zero surprise to any of us. The Clinton corruption was off the charts. Benghazi, private email servers, Clinton Foundation, Whitewater controversy, Travelgate, the Vince Foster suicide, and I'm using air quotes here, and the countless numbers in the Clinton body count. And this is what happens when your black, corrupt soul finally catches up to you. All right, folks, we're going to be back in just a second. Again, these emails are flying in, voicemails, flying in 888-601-0032. We're going to try and get some of these back to you by the end of the show. I am loving this show today on a Friday. Back in 2.5. Well, let's bring in the executive director for the Foundation for Freedom Online, and he's here to give us an inside look into a couple of big stories, the Epstein scandal and the Obama treason scandal. Let's welcome Mike Benz. Mike, let's start with the Epstein, if you don't mind. Trump had this to say, and this kind of lays it out perfectly. Take a listen.
Well, I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney, but you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
You know, that really interesting comment there. Look at Bill Clinton 28 times on the island. What do you know, Mike?
Well, not only that, Jeffrey Epstein went to the Bill Clinton White House at least 17 times. His name was on the White House visitor logs during the Bill Clinton presidency. We also know that Epstein's attorneys in court testified that Jeffrey Epstein helped co-found the Clinton Global Initiative and credit Jeffrey Epstein as the Clinton Global Initiative being Epstein's idea. We also know that Jeffrey Epstein shepherded Bill Clinton around Africa in 2002 for one of the five-country Africa tours that Bill Clinton was doing around the time he set up the Clinton Foundation. Certainly the links between the Clintons and the Epsteins are like peanut butter and jelly. They seem to slide right into each other at every link. And obviously this is something that Trump is trying to draw attention to, which happens to coincide with the revelations from Tulsi Gabbard around the Russiagate fiasco, where, of course, the Clintons were implicated once again. It was John Brennan who wrote on a napkin during the summer of 2016, at the height of campaign season, that Hillary Clinton had hatched a plan to frame Trump as a Russian asset, and they went ahead with Russiagate anyway. And then when Hillary Clinton got in trouble with the FBI for her own mishandling of classified documents, when she had classified emails on a non-classified server and on her own phone, when she destroyed those phones, which were subpoenaed by Congress, she was let off the hook by FBI Director James Comey, who, instead of charging her with the felony of willful misconduct or gross negligence, he came up with a brand new standard at FBI called extreme recklessness. So it's not gross negligence, because that would be a crime, but extreme recklessness, which magically the FBI determined was not a crime, anything to keep the Clintons out of jail.
It was very strange, and now we have this conversation. I wish I had set this up with the control room earlier, but when they went into Epstein's Manhattan loft, was something worth like $60 million at the time, he had a picture, he had a portrait of Bill Clinton in a blue dress. You remember? It kind of, that was weird at the time, and maybe there's a lot more to that.
Well, he certainly seemed to collect a lot of interesting trinkets, which seem to be souvenirs or antiques of maybe the folks that he had in his pocket, and the Clintons certainly seem to be one of them, whether that was through financial bundling or whether that was through Epstein as a back channel. But I do think there are sensitivities around Trump world here, because I think that there are also potentially Trump friends and Trump allies who did business with Epstein as well. And so it's a complicated period for the president, because there's so many wins, both on domestic and foreign policy, and the base is so animated about getting answers on Epstein. I should note this also coincides with the news today that Ghislaine Maxwell has reportedly spoken to the DOJ and given up something like 100 names of Epstein associates that are now names in the DOJ's possession. If there was any doubt about the existence of an Epstein client list, the firsthand testimony of Ghislaine Maxwell may be the closest substitute we'll get.
You know, I think, listen, we had a conversation with Alan Dershowitz, who was he represented Epstein at some level at some point back in the day, and I point blank asked him, should Ghislaine Maxwell be in prison at all? And he said no. He said no, she's doing time for the crimes that Epstein committed, and now that may have opened the door for what's come since. And what's come since is the Department of Justice is talking to Ghislaine Maxwell. We may end up finding out this list one way or the other, maybe even through that channel. I don't want to lose sight of this Obama potential treason call it an accusation right now. Before we do that, one of the other folks involved in this, and I don't know if he's one of the people indicted as well, but listen to James Clapper. And this, I remember this, I watched this, I couldn't believe, my jaw dropped when I watched this the first time live. This is years and years ago, but watch.
Last summer, the NSA director was at a conference, and he was asked a question about the NSA surveillance of Americans. He replied, and I quote here, "The story that we have millions or hundreds of millions of dossiers on people is completely false." The reason I'm asking the question is, having served on the committee now for a dozen years, I don't really know what a dossier is in this context. So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
One is that was the director of the NSA at the time. Lied to Congress under oath. Never really got in trouble for it. Actually had a career on left-leaning mainstream media, MSNBC or one of those networks. My point is, these people are all in cahoots. This is racketeering, but are we too far beyond the statute of limitations to really nail them for racketeering?
That's exactly right. This was the clearest case of perjury, perhaps, in congressional history. You had James Clapper lie straight to Congress's face. The Snowden leaks proved the exact opposite, and that, of course, the director of national intelligence knew that. In fact, it's standard fare for the NSA and for the intelligence services to collect domestic information in the course of a counterintelligence probe. They collected domestic information around Trump and all of his associates during Russiagate. That wasn't a brand new practice at that time. That was standard fare. But James Clapper did not want to open the gate to what would be the subsequent question, which is, what kinds of information are you collecting? How extensive is it? In which case, the American people would have learned ahead of the Snowden leaks just how damning the Snowden leaks would have turned out to be, but they would have heard it firsthand from the spy chief rather than from a whistleblower. And the fact is when you hire spies whose job is to lie, unfortunately, they get very good at their jobs. And in service of the foreign policy that they seek to have administered around the world, they understand that part of their job is lying to the American people, which is why I think that Tulsi Gabbard and what she's doing is, quite frankly, revolutionary in that role, to have somebody in there who will simply not go along with the program and is, in fact, turning the apparatus to clean house against those spies who've abused those spycraft powers against the American people. And
they lied, Mike. They lied. They were willing to lie under oath. They lied to each other. Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Vindman, Andrew McCabe. They all lied to cover each other's footsteps and protecting Obama and essentially Clinton and maybe even John McCain.
Yes, and there was a fantastic quote that was flying around at the time in the FBI during Russiagate, which was something along the lines of, if this ship is going down, someone's got to tell me, because I don't want to be the last one left without a lifeboat. It's also instructive that President Obama himself even wrote in an email that, with respect to Russiagate, quote, everything had to be done by the book. And I think that's a very telling quote. You know, if you're doing something dirty, you don't need to tell people that, hey, everything has to be by the book. That suggests that it's not by the book, and they need to find a way to manufacture it so that it looks ordinary course. If you don't need to tell your accountant before you file your taxes, hey, this year it's got to be done by the book, because the auditors are really going to look hard.
Hey, let's do something a little different. Let's actually do it by the book. You're 100% right. Mike, I got to jump, but really good having you. We'll get you back again very soon, because this stuff ain't going away anytime soon. And I love that Clapper soundbite because the internet's forever, and that guy can lie his way all the way into a career on MSNBC all he wants. But we know he
wouldn't do well with a body language expert. His
That's right.
didn't fool us.
Not,
all right, thanks.
Not
Eric.
purposefully. Yeah, okay. Whatever you say, Clapper. Mike Benz, everyone. Thank you. Be back 2.5. That was cool. Democrats have entered a state of paranoia when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein crime file. Senator Richard Blumenthal thinks that the DOJ is only interviewing Ghislaine, however you say it, Maxwell, to secure some sort of cover-up. Listen.
We have besieged and written and urged the Department of Justice to come clean with the American people. And instead what's happening is one of the most corrupt misuses of power in the history of the Department of Justice. The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, is about to go to a federal prison where Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted felon involved in the Epstein trafficking of children, is going to be interviewed by him. Now, keep in mind that no ordinary person could have their personal henchmen in the Department of Justice go to secure a cover-up as a result of that kind of secret meeting and secret deal, giving her potentially a pardon for providing information favorable to Trump.
Come on, Dick Blumenthal. I think you're a little nervous. Are you nervous what Ghislaine is going to say? I think I would be. A lot of you folks are probably on that list itself. Now that Barack Obama is in the hot seat after Tulsi Gabbard's bombshell revelations, flashbacks like this are hitting a little harder today. Take a look.
Nobody in my administration got indicted.
Don't speak too soon, Barack Hussein Obama. You never know. You never know. Of course, the narrative over at CNN is that Tulsi Gabbard couldn't be more off base. Listen to how the worst team in news is covering the top story in the country right now.
The problem for him is that the truth is never going to change. What we found, what we were concerned about, what we found, what was confirmed will always remain what it is. Tulsi Gabbard is simply an opportunist in this play, right? Her star is falling. Her analysis was thrown out the window on Iran. She embarrassed herself with that somewhat bizarre video about nuclear weapons in Japan. And so she's using this as an opportunity to get herself back into favor with the White House. That's my personal assessment. But, this seems to be kind of the State of the Union for what we're in right now.
CNN wonders why they have absolutely no one watching their network anymore. You have an unnamed host in the middle. I don't even know that guy, John something or whatever. And then you got Andrew McCabe, who's been proven to be a complete liar about everything. He's part of the deep state connection with Brennan and Comey and the rest of it, and Clapper, and that guy as well. And then on the other side, you have their legal experts. It's Toobin. Jeffrey Toobin's a guy who got caught doing pretty embarrassing things on a Zoom call with the whole company. Remember that? Good luck to you, CNN. Another off the deep end Democrat, Randi Weingarten, just dropped her latest unhinged rant. Watch this lunatic.
That education is a national goal and a national priority. And instead of dismantling education, this has nothing to do with whether local school boards or school districts should run education. We believe they should. But it says this is a national priority. Our students are a national priority. Education and public education and higher education is a national priority. If we want to be nation builders, if we want to have a future in this country, this is a national priority. And that means our teachers and our paraprofessionals who are the ones who teach kids, they must be a national priority too.
She would be a lot more believable. I don't like the antics with the arms. Reminds me of Tim Walz, how about you? But she'd be a lot more credible and she's the head of the American Federation of Teachers, or National Federation of Teachers, one of the biggest teachers union in the country. If our students were ranked 40th in the world, we're 40th in the world in test scores across the board, and we spend the most money in the world per student. She'd have a lot more credibility if she had a lot better scoreboard, so to speak. Mel Gibson just laid into Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom, the two-headed monster that continues to destroy California. Listen to this, and listen carefully. He's spot on.
Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office? How much more of their destructive decision-making masquerading as leadership are we going to tolerate?
Mel Gibson, 2028? I don't know. What do you think? Ronald Reagan was an actor before he became governor and then president, one of the best presidents we've ever had, if not the best. I don't know. Gibson 2028. Just a thought. The latest baseless claim from Congresswoman Jazzy Jasmine Crockett would be accusing her state of gerrymandering, but listen to her carefully. We had to bleep a bunch of it.
It's a bunch of But hey, this is what we know the Republicans are good at. If there's one thing they're good at cheating, and they're good at people, right? So that's exactly what we're going through right now. They have decided that they are losers, and we understand why. And so with these loser policies, they have a loser mentality. So they have decided that if you can't win, cheat.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
I got to talk to Beto at work yesterday, and that's what he does. I said, boy, when the white boy is calling y'all sore losers, then I know we got a problem. Yeah, because even he was like, he said, yeah, they're just cheating. That's what they're doing. Yeah. And it's because they know they can't win on policies because all of this stuff is unpopular that they've been doing.
She called us losers. And I say losers, I mean conservatives. I'm not a Republican, but I'm conservative. Republicans have the House, the Senate, the White House. They won the popular vote. They won the presidency. They won the popular vote. They won 320 or so electoral college votes. Republicans are governors in 35 of the 50 states. Losers? Try again, Jazzy. Scott Jennings, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, last week, I think, absolutely crushed Abby Phillips on CNN as she tried to get a last-minute jab in before heading to break. She does this quite often, especially with him. Watch.
To go to break, but there is only one political party where the sitting president right at this moment still believes that he won an election that he lost. Thank you. Okay, that's the only one guy.
Political party
okay,
Russia stole
only
the
one
2016
guy.
election.
So
They believe it.
Up next for us, we've got more.
See what she does? It's a trick. It's a host trick, especially when you're on panels. You're hosting a panel show. We have people calling. You're trying to hold court. You know, you try to make sure you keep the ball rolling, but also hold court. And so if someone says something that you think your audience doesn't like, Scott Jennings saying something that the CNN audience didn't want to hear, you throw something at him and you turn to the camera real fast and say, we got to go to break. And it doesn't allow the person to rebut what she said. And she's very, very often wrong. She's very often wrong, but that's a very, very, I call it sneaky. I almost said sleazy, but it's a sneaky little trick. The election stealing narratives have already begun in California. Listen to Gavin Newsom, Trump's word, talk about the 2026 midterms.
When we do this today on this podcast, I just read this morning that Donald Trump was on the phone with the Texas legislature, and they're going through a redistricting thing to basically get 5 more seats for the midterms because they're likely to lose the midterms. And Trump is likely to lose power unless they can change the districts and rig the game so he stays in power.
Do you think he's going to try and stay in power?
When people
beyond his town?
close to Donald Trump send the governor of California a hat that says Trump 2028, they're not around.
This is the guy that wants to be president in 2028. This is absolutely mind-boggling. Before I hit the break, I want to remind you about my podcast and YouTube page, both updated daily. You can hear the show and tons of other content anytime, anywhere. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Call that toll-free number too, by the way, folks, 888-60-1032. I just got to show you something. I got to show you on camera. Can you zoom this, guys? Can you do this? When you call, the voicemail comes to my email. I get on my phone hundreds. Many hundreds, 500-600 are coming in as we speak. talking to me about The View. We're going to try and get a few of those in the next segment. We'll be right back, 2.5 minutes. So at the top of the show, I asked you to send in some voicemails about what you think you would tell the ladies of The View. They're going on hiatus. They're going to take a few weeks off. Tell them what you think they should do. Before we jump to them, I had sent some over to the guys and gals in control. Hey, Ben, can you give me a control room shot? You got Ben there. We got Drew. We have Trish. We got Mad Dog there. Let's see. Do you have that TV, the camera shot? Show us a shot. Give us a shot.
Hang on, I'm getting it set up for
All right. No rush. Just there they are. Look at the folks there. So we send some over, and they have to clean them up and cut them up. So, Benny, what do we got? Give us a couple of views. Let's start with the first one.
The women of The View are so asinine, it should be a total farce comedy show. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's one. And let me just tell you, I started listening. There's about 300 voicemails that came in. I started listening to them. They're pretty much similar. See if you can see what the pattern here. Go ahead, Benny. We got another one?
Hi, yes. This is Corbett and Joanne Richter from Washington State, and we would love to see The View disappear forever and ever and ever. Count us in on that.
Another one, Ben? You got another one?
I live in North Carolina, and I just despise The View. I hope it never comes back. Those ladies need to get a job and get a life.
How about another one?
Yeah, we got a couple more.
Let's do it.
What's up, Eric? I hope you're having a great day, bud. Tell the gals from The View, no need to come back. Good riddance. Have a great day, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I think we have one or two more, right, Ben?
We have two more.
Let's do it.
Hi, this is Rosemary Winfield from Taylor, South Carolina. Referencing The View, they need to go. When they go on vacation, just go and keep going. They are a disgrace. They are in no way or shape or form part of what most of us in the U.S. think. They're a jaded, hateful bunch that need to go. Just get on the coattails of Colbert and beat it. Thanks, Eric. You're the best.
Folks, so many. And it was usually, again, mix. I would say 60% men, 40% women. It was overwhelming women. How about one more, Benny, before we move on to some other ones? Go ahead.
The View should never come back. They are the worst women in America. They should be canceled. They should not have a show. And that's all I got to say. They are the worst. And I really love your show. God bless you. Amen.
Amen to you, too. So a lot of folks, a lot of women just have had it. And it's supposed to be a show of women, for women, by women, The View. Apparently women don't like The View. And who knows? Will it come back? I don't know. They take a sabbatical every single year. This year will be no different. But in light of what's going on with ABC, with George Stephanopoulos having to fork over ABC, fork over tens of millions of Trump, CBS going to have to do the same thing. Colbert gets bounced. You never know. You just never know. And The View's ratings have been sliding for being as partisan as the rest of the mainstream media has been for the last 8, 9, 10 years since Donald Trump first came down the escalator. Benny, we have a couple from another day. And again, folks, I would have played more of those, but it takes a while for me to get it over them, get them to make it TV ready. So, Benny, we have other voicemails from, I think, the last couple of days.
We have a good many of them. We have Elaine from Pennsylvania saying it's time to wake up.
Hey, this is Elaine from Catawissa, Pennsylvania. This is my theory. It's time to wake the baby. We've been tiptoeing around and tiptoeing around. It's time to get the baby awake and get this thing rolling. Get the orange jumpsuits ordered, get the zip ties ready, and let's go get them. And you have a great day too, Eric.
Thank you so much. Listen, I think she said something very, very important. She said, get the orange jumpsuits ready. Everyone needs a perp. You just need a perp walk. There's so much garbage going on in D.C., so much crime, so much corruption going on in D.C. Perp walk these people so they don't continue to do it. You just have to. You know they're going to do it when they have the ball, when the Democrats have the ball. You got the ball. You have the House, Senate, the White House. You got 35 Governor's mansions across the country. You have the moment. Put some of these people behind bars for breaking the law. You can do it. Look what they did to the January 6th folks. You can do it. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Benny, another one.
Yes, sir. We have Adolf Sanchez from New Mexico. He has some words for Obama.
You're doing a very good job. My name's Adolf Sanchez. I'm from New Mexico. Keep up the good works. Yes, and I do believe he should go to jail. Talk to you later. Bye. You keep on doing a good job. Bye.
All right, we'll keep doing it. I'm not doing a good job. I'm just bringing what I feel, what we feel. This is it. This is not scripted. It's just talked. Just throwing it out there. Here's the thing. It'll be very difficult to put Obama in jail. Don't hate me for this. Here's why. Hear me out. Trump got the Supreme Court to say, you know what? Presidents have immunity. What happened was that gave Barack Obama immunity. So you may not see Obama behind bars, but last I checked, Hillary was never a president. So you may see her. We should really test the power of the pardon. Maybe we should test that and see if you can overturn a pardon, a Joe Biden pardon, so to speak. Benny, another one?
We have Michelle from Florida. She wonders why Karen Bass smiles when talking.
Hi, Eric. This is Michelle from Jupiter, the one with the gay husband who thinks you're hot. He thinks you're hot. Okay, here's my question. Why does Karen Bass smile when she's talking about death and destruction? The mayor from California is talking about flooding and fires, and she's smiling like the Joker. Don't you have a body language guy? You got to get him on that. I mean, it's so disturbing. Okay, Eric, love you. Bye.
Love you too. Say hi to the hubby for me. I forgot. Yes, Karen Bass. I think if you're a Democrat, you're a lunatic to start with. So when she smiles, I never really liked that woman she was a congresswoman, I think, first before she's the mayor of L.A. When I realized, Benny, can you take the control room shot again? I realized I left Matt out. I mentioned everyone except Matt. I forgot that. Say hi, Matt. Wave your hand. There's Matt. There he is. Cool. I didn't want to leave anyone out of the control room. I didn't forget anyone else, did I, Ben?
Nope, that's all of them.
You have a short, quick voicemail for us, real quick?
Yes, I do. We have the viewer wants Bondi to charge Hillary and Obama.
Do it.
Eric Bolling, when is Pam Bondi going to set jury and charge these people? How much longer do we have to wait for these criminals to be charged with something? Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not sure you're going to be able to get a charge on Obama, but you can certainly lean into and find out what he knew, what he knows, when he knew it, etc. Not sure about any of the rest. I do believe Hillary Clinton should be in a jumpsuit. I do believe. She was never president. She doesn't have an immunity. She should be behind bars. Benghazi alone should put her behind bars. And the rest of the stuff that she did colluded with a bunch of people knowing it was fake evidence to get Trump spied on. That is illegal. Put her in jail. Lock her up. Warren up next. Have a great weekend. See you Monday, folks. Bowling out.